The Galactic Council had always watched Earth from far away. From their great stations that floated between the stars, they studied every planet in the galaxy. Most worlds were marked as safe to conquer or too dangerous to touch. Earth, however, was marked with a strange code: defenseless, do not engage. For centuries, no one had touched the blue and green planet. It had no massive fleets guarding its skies, no planetary shields, no moon-sized cannons. Just a quiet world with small ships and no sign of real weapons docked to the Varkran Empire. This was a joke. The Varkran were a proud and cruel species, tall, with gray skin like steel and 4 glowing red eyes. They had conquered 20 star systems. They had burned entire planets. To them, Earth looked like a soft fruit, ready to be taken. Inside the War Council of the Varkran flagship, High Commander Viral stood tall before a glowing star map. Earth is weak, Viral said. They have no warships in orbit, no fleets in deep space. One fast strike, and it will be ours. Some of his officers laughed, but one did not. Commander Thrix, an old Varkran soldier with scars across his face, stayed silent. When Viral asked for his opinion, Thrix only said, "There's a reason no one has touched that planet for hundreds of years. We should leave it alone." Viral's red eyes narrowed. "Old soldier, you've fought too many wars. You see ghosts in empty rooms. Earth will be ours by sunrise." The fleet began to move. 30 warships crossed the black sea of space. There, silver hulls glowed in the starlight. Inside, alien soldiers prepared for battle, loading plasma rifles, sharpening energy blades. They joked about how easy the fight would be. One soldier said, "Maybe the humans will surrender without firing." "A shot," another laughed, "if they even have guns." The journey was quiet, too quiet. Even the navigators noticed something strange. Usually, when the Varkran approached a planet, there would be some response: defense drones, warning signals. Maybe a broadcast demanding they leave. Earth gave them nothing. No message. No defense. It was as if the planet did not care. The fleet entered Earth's orbit. The aliens stared through the viewing glass. The blue oceans shone under the sunlight. White clouds swirled across green and brown lands. From here, it looked peaceful, inviting. "Look at it," one officer. Saeed, a perfect world, and no one to protect it. Commander Thrix was still not smiling. Perfect worlds are rarely undefended. He whispered, but no one listened. The first wave of landing ships broke through the thin atmosphere. They passed over mountains, rivers, forests, and cities. And yet something was wrong. The cities were there, tall buildings, streets, lights, but there was no movement. No people walking, no cars driving, no sound of life. It was as if the humans had simply vanished. The Varkran landed in what looked like a large human city. The streets were wide, with glass towers reaching for the sky. Alien boots clanged against the ground as soldiers spread out, searching for life. "Thermal scanners?" Viral asked. "Empty," a soldier replied. No human signatures. No heat except the sun. They checked the buildings, empty. They checked the shops, empty. Even the food was untouched, as if the humans had left only minutes ago. That was when one of the soldiers froze. "Commander, do you hear that?" Viral stopped walking. At first, he heard nothing. Then it came, low, deep, almost too soft to notice. A growl. Not mechanical. Not a ship engine. It was alive. Some kind of animal, another soldier said. "Ignore it. Keep moving." But the growl followed them, moving through the shadows between the buildings. In orbit, the rest of the Varkran fleet watched the landing forces on their screens. A few officers frowned. Something about this mission felt wrong. Too easy. One navigator said quietly, Sir, should we call them back? This planet feels strange. Viral, watching from the surface, barked into his come. We are the Varkaran Empire. We do not retreat from shadows. Still, Commander Thrix's words echoed in some minds. There's a reason no one touches Earth. On the street below, the alien soldiers reached a wide city square. The growl stopped. Silence filled the air. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that makes even the strongest warrior feel small. The alien in front took a step. Forward. Something moved. Not in the open, in the corner of the soldier's visor. A shadow, fast, silent, watching. The soldier turned his head. Nothing was there. Then, a second shadow. Then a third. The alien squad turned in every direction, weapons raised. The city felt alive now, but not with humans. Something was here. Something that did not want them to leave. The growl returned, closer, louder. And this time, it was not alone. High above, on the flagship, an officer's eyes widened as he read new data from the scanners. Commander. Movement detected. Multiple signals. They're surrounding the squad. Humans? The commander asked. The officer shook his head slowly. No, not humans. And somewhere, deep in the shadows of the empty city, a pair of glowing eyes opened. The hunt had begun. The Varkaran soldiers stood in the empty city square, weapons ready. The growls had stopped, but that only made the silence heavier. Even the wind had gone still. From the sky, the other landing ships touched down in different parts of the city. Dozens of alien squads spread out, searching for any sign of human life. But every street was the same, empty. One squad entered a tall glass tower. Floors and floors of offices stood untouched, computers still on, papers scattered on desks, coffee cups half full. It looked as if the workers had simply stood up and walked away. Where did they go? One soldier whispered. Maybe they knew we were coming, another replied. Then why leave everything behind? Outside, Commander Viral scanned the streets with his visor. Still no heat signatures. Still no movement. The planet seemed abandoned. He didn't like it. Planets under attack usually panicked. Alarms, chaos, soldiers in the streets. But here, there was nothing. It was like Earth had been expecting them, and had prepared something else. In orbit, Commander Thrix watched from the flagship. Old soldier's voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp. I have seen this before, he said quietly. Before a storm, the air is calm. Before a predator strikes, the jungle goes silent. This is that silence? An officer scoffed. Predators? On a planet like this? Please. We would have seen them from orbit. Thrix didn't answer. He just kept watching the screens. Down below, the first strange sign came from Squad Delta. They were moving through a narrow street when their comms crackled with static. At first, they thought it was interference. Then they heard it again. The growl. Sound direction? A soldier asked. North. Wait, no. Now it's west. No, it's behind us. They turned as one, aiming their rifles. The street was emptied out. Another squad, 2 blocks away, reported the same thing. Growls in every direction, no targets. No movement on scanners. Viral ordered all squads to regroup in the main square. It took longer than it should have. Some soldiers arrived late, claiming they kept hearing footsteps behind them, but saw nothing. Others said they thought they saw figures watching from rooftops, but every time they looked, nothing was there. In orbit. Thrix leaned forward. They're playing with us. An officer frowned. Who? Thrix didn't take his eyes off the screen. The humans. Viral was losing patience. Enough of this. We search underground. Humans must be hiding in shelters. Squads began opening access hatches and breaking into subway tunnels. At first, the tunnels were empty. dark, quiet. Then the shadows moved. It wasn't fast at first. A shape here, a flicker there. But soon, every soldier felt it. Something was down there with them. Something that didn't need lights to see. One soldier from Squad Epsilon whispered into his comm, "I think they're following us." The reply came not from his squad mate, but from right behind him. A voice, deep and human. "We've been following you since you landed." The soldier spun around, but there was only darkness. His flashlight flickered and died. In the main square, Viral heard the first scream, then another, then the sound of weapons firing. "Report! What's happening?" He shouted into the comm. Only static answered him. From the flagship, the bridge crew watched the soldier trackers on the map begin to blink out, one after another. No signs of battle, no explosions. Just gone. One officer whispered, "They're not killing them. In a fight, they're taking them." Thrix's eyes narrowed. "Now you see why no one attacks Earth." On the surface, Viral called for the dropships to pick up the remaining squads. The ships came down quickly, engines burning hot. But as they hovered over the landing zone, something struck from the rooftops. Fast, heavy, and silent. One dropship lost control, spinning into a building in a ball of fire. The rest fled back upward into the clouds. The city was silent again. No bodies, no soldiers. Only the echo of footsteps somewhere far below, moving deeper into the Earth. From orbit, Thrix looked at Viral through the comm screen. "Still think they're defenseless?" Viral's eyes were dark with anger. "No, but I will make them regret this." Thrix shook his head slowly. "They're not afraid of you, Commander. You're not the predator here. You're the prey." And far below, in the tunnels under the city, glowing eyes moved through the dark, waiting for the hunt to begin. The Varkran soldiers were restless. They had been on Earth for less than 2 hours, and already 3 squads had vanished without leaving a single trace. Commander Viral stood in the middle of the ruined city square, his 4 red eyes scanning every shadow. The air was heavy, too heavy. Even the dust seemed to move slower here. In orbit, the flagship bridge was silent, except for the soft beeping of scanners. The crew watched small red dots, the trackers for each soldier, blink one by one, and vanish. "Commander," the sensor officer said quietly, "we are losing people faster than we can track them. Then track whatever is taking them." Viral barked. The officer's hands moved quickly across the console. After a moment, his voice shook. "There's nothing on the scans. No heat signatures. No movement readings. It's like they disappear into thin air." Squad Theta was the next to report trouble. They had entered an underground metro station, looking for humans. Instead, they found claw marks along the walls, long, deep, and fresh. "Some kind of animal," a soldier muttered. "An animal that makes no sound and leaves no body?" The squad leader replied. Then came the noise. Not a growl this time, a hiss, low, sharp, close. The squad leader raised his weapon flashlight toward the sound. The beam caught a shape. For less than a second, something tall, thin, and impossibly fast. Its eyes reflected the light like 2 coins of burning gold. Then it was gone. The flagship's comm screens lit up with Theta's feed, shaking, dark, soldiers shouting. Then static, no signal. Another squad gone. VURAL ordered every unit to pull back to the square. No more splitting up. "We hold position until reinforcements arrive." The surviving squads formed a circle, weapons aimed outward. The city around them was silent again. Too silent. One soldier's helmet cam showed movement on the rooftops. A blur darting from one building to the next. Then another blur. Then another. Dozens. "Contact on high ground," the soldier shouted. "Fire!" Viral roared. Blue plasma bolts lit up the sky, tearing through concrete and glass. But they hit nothing. Whatever was up there moved too fast. Then it came, the first real attack. From the shadows between two buildings, something leapt into the circle of soldiers. It was humanoid, but not human, taller, stronger, its skin pale as bone, muscles moving like steel cables. It hit two soldiers before anyone could react, and both were gone, dragged screaming into the dark. The rest opened fire, but the creature was already gone. In orbit, Commander Thrix leaned closer to the feed. His voice was grim. That was no animal. That was a hunter. The bridge crew stared. A hunter? Yes, Thrix said. The kind that doesn't fight for territory. It fights for sport. On the surface, one of the surviving soldiers gasped. Commander. It wasn't. Alone. Shapes moved in the dark, too many to count. They didn't rush in. They circled, watching, testing. Like predators studying their prey, Viral's voice was steady but tight. Hold the line. Do not let them. Something cut him off. A long, low whistle from somewhere high above. The hunters stopped moving. The whistle ended. Then, every shadow lunged at once. The square exploded into chaos. Aliens fired in every direction, but the hunters weaved through the fire, pulling soldiers away one by one. Some were dragged into the streets, some straight into the sewers. Some simply vanished. The sound of the hunt was deafening. Growls, hisses, heavy impacts, and the screams of soldiers. Viral fought his way to a nearby building, trying to get higher ground. From the second floor, he finally saw it, one of the hunters, carrying a Varkaran soldier over its shoulder like it weighed nothing. It moved into the shadows and was gone. Then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The hunters melted back into the darkness. Silence returned. The square was almost empty now. Only a handful of shaken soldiers remained. Viral's calm crackled. A voice spoke, deep, slow, and human. This is your first warning. Viral froze. Who are you? He demanded. The voice ignored the question. Leave now, while you still can. Then the comm went dead. In orbit, Thrix spoke into the silence of the bridge. If they stay, they won't get a second warning. And somewhere, far below, in the city's endless shadows, the hunters prepared for the next phase of the game. The Varkaran survivors were not soldiers anymore. They were prey. They stood in the ruins of the city square, covered in dust, sweat, and the scent of fear. The air was cold now, unnaturally cold, as if the planet itself had changed mood. Commander Viral's armor was scorched, his voice harsh from shouting. Only 20 of his original 100 soldiers remained, and every one of them knew the truth. This mission was no longer a victory march. It was survival. In orbit, the flagship's bridge was tense. The crew had stopped talking. Even the steady hum of the engines felt quieter. On the main screen, Commander Thrix's scarred face stared down at the disaster. They let you live, Thrix said through the comb. Why? Viral growled. Because, Thrix answered, they are testing you. The testing didn't take long to continue. The ground shook, not with the heavy step of machines, but with something alive. From the edges of the city, distant roars rolled through the air, each one deeper than the last. The surviving soldiers raised their rifles. But the first movement came from above. Something dropped from a rooftop into the middle of the group. It landed silently, despite its size, 2 meters tall, lean, and built for speed. Its skin was pale gray, with faint lines glowing blue under the surface. Its face was covered by a mask made of dark metal, but its eyes burned like molten gold. For the first time, they saw a hunter clearly. It moved with perfect stillness, its head tilting slightly, as if studying them. Then it reached behind its back and drew a blade, not steel, not plasma, but something black and jagged, like a piece of night itself. No one moved. The hunter stepped forward, slow and deliberate. It didn't rush. It didn't need to. One soldier panicked and fired. The blue plasma bolt shot straight at the hunter's chest, but before it could hit, the hunter was gone. A blur. And then, it was behind the soldier, the black blade at his throat. The soldier's scream lasted only a moment before the hunter pulled him into the shadows. Another hunter appeared, this one on the rooftop, kneeling, its mask scanning the survivors. Then another appeared in the alley. Then another. And another. Viral's eyes darted around. The hunters weren't attacking yet. They were surrounding them, closing the circle. From orbit, the flagship scanners picked up dozens of fast-moving signals converging on the square. The officer's voice cracked. "Sir, there are more than 30 now, and they're moving too fast to target." Thrix's face was pale under his scars. "You're not dealing with soldiers, Commander. You're dealing with an entire hunting pack." On the surface, the circle closed. The hunters' movements were so perfect, so synchronized, that it was as if they shared one mind. Viral knew staying put meant death. "Break out to the east." "Move," he shouted. The Varkan dashed through the narrow streets, firing blindly to keep the hunters back. For a few moments, it seemed to work. No shapes in sight, no movement on the rooftop's dot. Then a shadow dropped from above. A hunter slammed into the lead soldier, pinning him to the ground. The soldier's armor dented under the creature's grip. Before anyone could help, the hunter lifted the soldier and threw him through a wall like he was nothing. More hunters joined the chase. Some moved along the rooftops, leaping silently from building to building. Others stayed on the ground, always, keeping pace, never falling behind. The Varkran fired until the rifles overheated, but the hunters were always one step away. They were not trying to wipe them out, not yet. They were guiding them, herding them. The Varkran burst into a wide industrial yard filled with rusted human machines. Viral realized too late that they had been funneled here. High fences surrounded the area. No way out except the way they came, and that way was now blocked by more than a dozen hunters. For a long, tense moment, no one moved. The hunters stood in perfect formation, masks glinting in the moonlight, blades in hand. Then one of them stepped forward and reached for its mask dot and removed it slowly. The face beneath was human, but not. Its skin was too pale, its jaw too sharp, its eyes glowing with unnatural light. When it spoke, the voice was calm. "You came here thinking we were prey." It took another step closer. "You were wrong." Before Viral could respond, the hunters vanished into motion. The night exploded into chaos. From orbit, the flagship crew could only watch the trackers blink out, one after another. Thrix turned away from the screen. This is only the beginning. And down below, in the cold moonlight of Earth, the hunters returned to the game, faster, stronger, and far more dangerous than before. The industrial yard was silent again. The hunters had vanished, melting into the shadows as if they had never been there. The surviving Varkran soldiers, only 12 now, stood shaking, weapons trembling in their hands. Commander Viral's armor was dented, one arm bleeding from a blade strike. He had fought many battles, but none like this. Here, the enemy didn't just kill. They stalked. They chose who lived. And they left you alive only if it served their purpose. In orbit, the flagship bridge was frozen in silence. On the main screen, the last few soldier trackers blinked slowly, surrounded by dozens of fast-moving signals. Commander Thrix spoke, his voice cold. "They could have ended this hours ago." Viral's voice came through the comm, sharp with anger. "Then why haven't they?" Thrix leaned forward. "Because they want you to understand something before you die." The answer came sooner than expected. A soft, rhythmic sound echoed across the yard, Boots on metal. The Varkran raised their rifles, aiming at the far side of the yard. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward. It was human. At least, it looked human. He was tall, wearing black armor that gleamed faintly under the moonlight. His face was hidden behind a half-mask, but his eyes glowed faintly, like the hunter's. And when he moved, it was with the same quiet precision they had seen in the predators. "Shouldn't be here?" the man said simply. His voice was calm, but it carried across the yard like a command. Viral tightened his grip on his weapon. "You are human?" The man tilted his head slightly. Yes and no. The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. "Explain," Viral demanded. The man took another step forward. Behind him, the shadows shifted. Dozens of hunters appearing silently, their golden eyes fixed on the aliens. "We are human," the man said, "but we are also more. We are the answer to the question no one dares to ask." Viral's voice was sharp. "And what question is that?" The man's eyes glowed brighter. "Why no one attacks Earth." The hunters began to move, circling the yard, but still keeping their distance. They moved with a predator's patience, close enough to strike, far enough to keep the prey from bolting. The man's voice stayed calm, almost conversational. Centuries ago, humans learned that strength alone wouldn't protect us. We were outnumbered, outgunned, so we changed. He gestured to the hunters. "We became this, faster than any soldier, stronger than any machine. We see in the dark, hear your heartbeat from across a room, and track you until you have nowhere left to run." One of the Varkran soldiers, braver or more foolish than the rest, stepped forward. "Your experiments? Mutants?" The man's head turned slowly toward him. "We're hunters," he said simply. Then his voice dropped lower. "And this planet is our hunting ground." The soldiers shifted nervously. They understood now. The humans had not abandoned the cities. They had simply stepped aside, letting the hunters take over. Viral's voice was low. "You are not military." The man almost smiled under his mask. "No, we're something older, something the galaxy forgot to fear." The hunters stopped moving. The man raised his hand slightly, and in perfect silence, every hunter vanished into the darkness again. For a moment, the yard was still. Then Viral heard it, movement behind them. When he turned, more humans were standing there. These humans didn't wear masks. They looked normal, men, women, even children, but their eyes held the same faint golden glow. And they were silent. Watching, Viral stepped back instinctively. His soldiers raised their rifles, but the man in black armor didn't even flinch. "Already lost, Commander. The only question is whether you want to die here or leave and tell the galaxy the truth." Viral's eyes narrowed. "And what truth is that?" The man's answer was quiet, but it felt like a blade sliding between armor plates. Earth is never defenseless. Earth is the trap. From orbit, Thrix watched the feed cut out again. He turned to the crew. "If they survive this night, they will never return, and neither will anyone else." On the surface, the man in black gave a final warning. "Run, while my hunters are still in a generous mood." And then, as silently as they had arrived, the humans and their hunters faded into the shadows, leaving the aliens alone in the cold yard, the night suddenly feeling far too big and far too quiet. The alien warship floated in the silent darkness of space. Inside, fear was heavy in the air. The crew, once confident, now looked over their shoulders, expecting something terrible to appear at any moment. Captain Zorath stood at the front of the command deck. His hands shook as he looked at the glowing screen. A single planet rotated. Slowly, Earth-dotted looked so small, so calm. No giant warships. No visible weapons. Just clouds and oceans. "This makes no sense," Zoreth muttered. We destroyed the scout team. We sent an entire fleet, and still Earth stands. Commander Vena, his second in command, stepped closer. Her voice was low. Captain, I have been studying the records. There is something strange. She tapped the console. A series of images appeared. Alien fleets destroyed, ships torn apart, planets left silent. But look, she whispered. Every time, the same thing happens. The enemy strikes once, and then they disappear. No survivors. No warnings. Just gone. Zoreth frowned. You mean Earth doesn't fight back directly? No, Vena said. They let the attackers think they have won, and then something hunts them. The word hunts made the crew shiver. On the lower decks, a young alien technician named Krill had been listening through the comms. He leaned toward another crew member. Do you think it's true? That they have some monster? The other alien swallowed. I think it's worse. I think the monster is human. Back on the command deck, Vena pulled up an old, hidden report, one the Galactic Council had erased. A file opened with a shaky video. A screen showed a dark battlefield. Alien soldiers walked through smoking ruins. They were laughing, thinking victory was theirs. Then, the sound began. It was not a roar. It was not a machine. It was a deep human voice, speaking in slow, perfect words. You came to my home. The camera shook. Something moved in the smoke. Too fast to see clearly. The soldiers screamed. One by one, they vanished into the darkness. The camera fell, showing only the ground and a shadow passing over it. When the image cleared, the battlefield was empty. No bodies, no ships. Only silence. Zoreth turned to Vena. Why would the Council hide this? Because, Vena said, if the galaxy knew the truth, no one would go near Earth again. And what is the truth? Zoreth asked, his voice shaking. Vena leaned in. Her words were almost a whisper. Humans are not defending Earth. They are protecting us from something that lives there. Something older and far deadlier than their species. They just work with it. Zoreth's eyes widened. You mean? Yes, she interrupted. Earth is not defenseless. Earth is a cage. And inside that cage is something you never, ever want to meet. Down in the halls, Krill heard the alarms start to ring. The ship's sensors had picked up something moving fast, very fast, from Earth's direction. A voice came over the comms. Unknown object approaching. No ID. No signal. Vena's face turned pale. It's too late. They've already marked us. Zoreth slammed the controls. Shields up. Prepare weapons. But deep inside, he knew weapons would not matter. Because if the old stories were true, then once Earth's pridey alien war council stood in silence. Their massive ships floated above Earth's orbit, weapons ready. Yet not a single shot had been fired. Inside the flagship, Commander Zoreth watched the blue planet on the screen. His claws tapped nervously on the table. The last 5 fleets sent here had never returned. The survivors, those rare few, spoke only one sentence before resigning. Earth is not what it looks like. But Zoreth didn't believe in old soldiers' tales. He believed in power. And the Council had decided this was the day they would finally take Earth. The screens lit up with sensor warnings. Something was moving in the oceans. Not ships, not missiles. Something alive. Report. Zoreth ordered. The sensor officer's voice shook. Sir, they're not defending. They're waking something up. The council room went cold. Every alien there knew what that meant. Far below, on Earth's coasts, ancient gates opened in the waves. Shadows rose from the deep creatures taller than skyscrapers, with glowing eyes and armored hides. One of them looked directly at the alien fleet and smiled. The first communication came through no fancy video, just a simple voice transmission. It was a human voice. Calm. Almost. Amused. "We told you not to come." Zorath's scales prickled. "Identify yourself." A voice chuckled. "I am no one important. Just the messenger. You see, Earth was never defenseless. We just never had to fight. Until now, the alien ships armed their weapons. Dozens of missile locks painted the planet's surface. The human voice spoke again. "Before you fire, understand this Earth doesn't just have weapons. Earth is a weapon." Without warning, the deep ocean creatures moved. They leapt not through air, but space itself. One moment they were in the oceans, the next they were in orbit, crashing into the alien fleet. The first strike was silent. A ship simply vanished, torn apart faster than sensors could process. The second ship exploded in a flash of light, scattering debris like dust. Panic erupted on the command deck. "They're not using technology," shouted the weapons officer. "They're hunting us." Zorath slammed his fist on the console. "Pull back, now." But it was too late. Something appeared outside the flagship's viewing window. A human figure, impossibly floating in space, stood on the nose of the ship. His suit was black, with glowing symbols older than the alien language. His eyes glowed like twin stars. He spoke directly, without comms. Every alien on board heard him inside their own minds. "This planet is under the protection of hunters. Older than your empires. Leave. Now." The council chamber froze. No one moved. The humans smiled cold and final. "You wondered why no one attacks Earth. Because the ones who tried are still here, in the ground, in the sea, in the dark." The deep-sea creatures swarmed around the alien ships. One by one, they disabled engines, tore weapons apart, and dragged massive vessels into the black void between worlds. Within minutes, the once mighty alien fleet was gone. The few ships that managed to escape fled without looking back. Zorath sat alone in the shattered command room, the message still echoing in his mind. The humans had not bragged. They had not threatened. They had simply told the truth, and the truth was worse than any nightmare. Weeks later, across the galaxy, a single message was broadcast on every frequency, in every language. "Earth is closed. Stay away." No one knew if it came from a human, a creature from the deep, or something even older. But no empire, no warlord, no fleet ever came to test it again. And so the legend of the defenseless Earth lived on, hiding its fangs behind a smile,